Hello and welcome back to B-roll Redux and happy holidays. Hello, David.
Hey, happy
How's your
holidays,
holiday
Dave.
been?
Good, good. Kids are home. Well, Audrey's home from college, and Sean's on the Xbox. He got a few gift cards for Christmas.
Everybody's busy. Everybody's busy.
Right, everybody's
Well,
busy.
one thing I did this holiday,
What's
watch
that?
a Christmas movie.
Oh, you did. Is that the hotly contested? Is this a Christmas movie or not? Right.
Die
I think it
Hard. Die
is.
Hard
I
is
think
definitely a Christmas movie. It's always been a Christmas movie to me.
it is. I mean, it's set in Christmas, and it's got a Christmas theme. Ho ho ho.
And this was the thing about in the 80s, late 80s, early 90s, people were getting tired of watching the Christmas Carol all the time.
Right,
Or,
right, right. All the Lifetime
and what
movies,
is the
right?
Jimmy Stewart one?
Oh, I can't even think of it. Yeah, good. Yeah, that one.
Yeah, I can't even think
Yeah,
of his name right now. But it's like, yeah, I mean, Christmas Carol it was overplayed. It's still overplayed. 24 hours of the Christmas Carol, goes on.
right.
So back in the day when I was growing up, we had basic cable, so we had all those other basic cable channels like TBS, TNT, so on and so on. They all
Right,
had movies being played because nothing else is going on during Christmas. So what would they show? Die Hard.
right,
Lethal Weapon. Lethal Weapon was all set during Christmas,
right.
and even the trend in the 80s and 90s was, action films,
Hmm.
were big, so they became kind of like the Christmas thing. In the early
Hmm.
2000s, I remember the trend where they went to the horror movies, right? They had like always had like a Jason movie or even it kind of flowed over to like Valentine's Day where it's like, oh man, everyone's tired of romantic comedies during this, holiday.
Right,
Let's do something polar opposite,
right. Yeah,
and nowadays it's still talked about, argued about, is it a Christmas film? Isn't
right,
it? It definitely is. It's got Christmas music in it.
right.
It's got Christmas theme in it.
Yeah, I see a Christmas
It's
tree
about
fell over. Yeah,
family.
right. It's about family. Right,
It's about family. Everything he
right,
does is about saving his wife and reconnecting with his wife and be able to see his
and,
kids and
right.
uh being, wonderful life. That's what that
A
movie was
wonderful.
about.
Right, right. I was
Like
thinking
being
Christmas
being
tree. Yeah,
selfish
wonderful
like
life. Yeah,
that guy was, and he was all about his job, and he didn't move with his family to LA, because it was hint, it wasn't
right.
completely said why, but he was a cop, he had criminals put away, he had his job.
Well, the
Maybe he
pure
didn't believe
machismo.
in his wife,
Yeah, he didn't want to recognize his wife had a career. Pure machismo. Male dominance in the workforce. And that's one thing they did talk about. I was reading Wikipedia, and Wikipedia is a really good source. I mean, I really enjoyed it. I know you shared it with, yeah, I went a deeper dive talking about this movie with Nakatomi Plaza was also the subtle subtext of the foreigners coming into the country and taking over, those kind of things, those little subtle subtext uh, that you see in these movies that you didn't realize are there. Our fears as Americans uh, were played out in these movies, ever so subtly. If you don't realize it until after you go back and do some research, or if you're really dissecting the movie. But it's a great movie, though. Great, and I think I agree with. I think it is a Christmas movie. But it's a what's his name? I can't even think of his name. Bruce Willis. This is his. Is he was a nondescript action hero. It's every man's hero, somebody who's just doing what he needs to do to, take care of business and save his wife and not only his other, compatriots. It's a good movie.
and what helped them in that everyman scenario and being portrayed like that, it's like, well, he wasn't an action star to begin with. He
No, no,
was
he was doing
literally known
moonlighting.
for comedy. Yeah,
Yeah,
moonlighting.
he stepped away from moonlighting when Sybil Shepherd. He was able to start filming Die Hard because Sybil Shepherd was pregnant,
Mhm.
and
Yeah,
it
and
was he was
moonlighting was super successful, and
it
this
was
allowed him to work out a record deal that he made $5 million. He
five
made this
million dollars
movie.
was
No
unheard of
one's ever
at that
made that
time.
much money on a film before,
Right,
at least an action film. Yeah,
it
I mean,
was well
someone
worth
must
it.
really saw something in Bruce Willis to be able to be that, or they knew for a fact that they wanted to cast against the type,
The grain. Right, right,
right?
right,
It's like, well, you could have gotten an action star. There was tons of action stars. Stallone was out there. Stallone probably would have, done a real good job of here, but it would have been that tough guy, right?
right.
It's kind of
But
the
they
same
go
with Mel Gibson. Mel Gibson had a little bit more action to him because, Road
right, Mad
Warrior and
Max.
Mad
Right,
Max. But, he was relatively unknown for playing that everyman kind of archetype where there's emotion in there. He has a
mhm,
very emotional scene, Bruce Willis, in this movie. It's like when he telling Al, the cop outside, it's like, hey, if I don't make this out, I need you to find my wife.
right,
Tell her, and he's trying to get out the words, and just like, I'm sorry, right?
right,
It brings him to tears. It's like, yeah, he's playing against the archetype of that big, tough guy, Rambo,
right,
Terminator,
right. Funny you should mention that
archetype.
scene because at the end of the movie, I was I felt more emotional when he was finally got to see the policeman Al. I felt more. I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm getting tears in my because it was as a nice closure. The the husband wife thing. That was like okay, that's. But the other one is this because they had this connection through almost the whole movie, and able to understand. And then at the end, when he shot the ultimate the last bad guy,
Yeah.
kind of again closed the book on the okay, everybody's happy. Let's move on. This is a good movie.
But how
Yeah.
that bad guy was still alive, I don't know. He was hanging from that
Yeah,
chain for quite some
he
time.
was chained up, and I'm thinking, I'm counting the wraps because I forgot that he got away. I'm thinking, wait a minute, all he has to do is turn his head the opposite way, and he's free. And then at the end, like you're right, yeah, he could have got
I
out of that quick,
mean,
and obviously he did.
chains can get caught pretty easily,
Right,
and especially if it went a couple of times, 2 times, it could have gotten caught. But
right,
I did see this, even though that's usually what you do, especially
right,
in Westerns are like that. But
right,
usually it's like, I guess his hands weren't hanging. So if you never see a dead body, you never count the
right.
person out, right?
Yeah, don't count the guy out. It was a fun movie to rewatch, and these subtle nuances. And that's one thing is us as filmmakers, do we go into it making these little things specifically, or are they just by happenstance? Because there's a lot to the screenwriting, but to dissect or to have these things, you don't want to call them maybe Easter eggs, but these things that are there. What did Michael Cohen? Well, what's the phrase? Mise en scène. You don't have anything in the scene unless it's there for a reason. So
Yeah.
I guess I just answered my own question. But to pick up on these things, you really have to be an astute viewer, or really like seeing the mouth of the eyes of the character and the turtles. Unless you're really going frame by frame and looking for little things,
And
it's tough.
back then it was really subtle. Nowadays
Right.
we like to like just shove everything in people's faces,
Well, because they're
and
selling something. That's why
yeah.
they're saying, look at me, go buy this product.
This is
That's
how I feel, this is how I think,
right, right.
instead
Other
of
than
putting something out there, even though that's what making you think, let
right,
someone else think something different if they want.
exactly, exactly. Explore how you feel with this thing, yeah. Instead of ramming it down our throats, right? Yeah. This is a
Well, the
great
funny the
movie.
funny thing is I was looking at the thief. They was called like you're just a common thief. And he's like, well, he's a
Right,
sexual thief. He's like, well, they were stealing $640 million, like in
right,
bearer
Bear,
bonds or
right,
whatever. Nowadays that equates to $1.66 billion.
billion, yeah. That's a big heist.
I mean,
Big heist.
that's more than that last gig. That's more than one more job and then you're done.
Right,
That's
right,
jobs for an entire country. That's
right,
buying a third world country and living there and being king.
right. And
So
Alan
great
Rickman did a
movie,
yeah.
1988.
It's so hard to believe it's been that long. Like somebody said something at work the other day that the employee has been at work since 2003. And my coworker said, well, that's only 10 years. I said, no, that's 22
It's
years,
22
23
almost,
years.
right?
And it just like 2000 doesn't seem like it's that 24 years ago. It's like, it's really weird how my mind and obviously this other employee's mind worked. It doesn't seem that long ago, but it is 24 years ago. And I graduated in 1982. It's like, holy smokes. That's like, what, 42 years ago?
Yep.
And I still act like I'm 18 years old. I refuse to grow up. But these movies that are coming out, I guess because they're frozen in time, you don't think that it's that long ago. Bruce Willis, suffering from what he's suffering from. It's a darn shame because he is a good actor. I've always liked Bruce Willis.
Oh
He's
yeah,
always,
and this movie actually showed that. Like I said, the range that he had showed
right,
that he was beyond just a comedian.
right. And it's just like it is in every that you could be your next door neighbor and say, "Oh, by the way, I live next door to Bruce Willis." Oh, really? He doesn't seem like a nice guy, and be on your way. That's that's what I see him as, and I think that's what makes him so successful because he is able to because that's who that's who they're playing to the masses, everyday man and woman. They want again someone to realize that hey, that could be me, or I could see myself doing that. So, I think he's a really good actor. I've always liked him.
And like I said,
Comedy,
it was
yeah,
a trend, back, in the 80s, late 80s, early 90s. You look at, Batman, who Tim Burton cast as Batman, Michael Keaton,
right,
another known comedian to
right,
play a action star, you
right.
know, and a lot of times that works. I mean, it even went down to like, what Heath Ledger when he played the Joker.
Hmm.
When that news came out, people were just tearing it up. It's like, oh man, that guy who played him last movie he played in was Brokeback Mountain. It's
Right,
like he's supposed to be the Joker.
right, right, right. But
But if
yeah,
you
that's a
do it right and the person has talent, and is the
right,
best person for the job, then take a chance.
right. Because they're going to bring something. We've talked about this before. They're going to bring something that the director, the producer didn't even think about because they're able to like you just birth that character and bring in that not even thought about, and either they do it uh, on at at the request or asking the director, hey, is it okay if I think it this way, or just kind of those subtle nuances throughout the character that really work, because they see something in it and it really does work,
Yeah,
but
I mean, he has such, charm and
right,
that casualty of it's beginning of that sarcastic character, right? Where
right,
it's like you're getting close to like the Gen X era around that
right,
time. So they were always known for being sarcastic, being, just saying, those one-liners turned into
hmm,
sarcastic one-liners, right?
right,
And having that moonlighting kind of charm that he had and always had that sarcastic quip, to bounce off of Sybil Shepherd's character, that's what he kind of brought there.
right,
And it would have been completely different. The person who owned the rights to the book
write the book, right.
was Clint Eastwood.
Right, yeah, I didn't realize that they had to offer the role to Frank Sinatra,
Yeah.
who was 70 at the time.
Yeah.
That would have been a definitely that would have been
Contractually obligated,
right.
so
Died
they had to
hard,
at least
right?
ask. But
Like when I
yeah,
saw
there was a
the
quote from
Sinatra,
Sinatra. He said, "Is like the chase scenes would have been done in the Rascal."
right,
He
right,
was so
right,
old
right,
at the time, 71. He's like, so he passed.
right.
Um,
But a
but
completely
I didn't
different
see
movie.
him given a producer's credit or anything like that. So he didn't really ask anything from the studios, that actually be involved with it. Since he played
Oh,
that
Clint Eastwood,
character in the first one.
right, right, yeah.
So yeah, but
I
even Clint Eastwood, it would have been a completely different tone. He's got that machismo tough guy.
right.
There wouldn't have been, I don't think I've ever seen Clint Eastwood kind of been like vulnerable, right? He's always been kind of like on top, right? He's
Well,
the
yeah,
tough
right.
guy.
Very true.
Bruce Willis, had that kind of vulnerability where it's like, man, he gets so beat up and so shot up, got glass in his foot. He's covered
Right.
completely almost in blood by the time he gets out. And the his wife when he starts lipping up, it's like Hans, at the end, and she's all like, "Oh my God," she
Hmm.
has like this line just showing how like you look bad right now,
Right, right, right. And
like you need to go to the hospital right now.
at the end of the movie, that I forgot. I knew that how Hans died because I like how the scene played out, but I thought it was more because I looked at the how the length of it. There's only like 6 minutes left. This guy's still alive. Then I forgot that that's where with him hanging out the window and stuff.
Yeah.
And that's a great scene. You know the 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 shooting of that scene. Okay, we either go on three, one, two, then they dropped them,
Yeah.
so it just
Yeah,
scared the
that
hell
was
out of
always
them.
the story where they wanted to
Yeah,
get that kind of like they wanted to get an authentic look
right. Oh,
from
holy
Rickman,
smokes, right?
even though Rickman could probably done authentic. It's like they
Right.
wanted authenticity.
Yeah.
So
Can
they
you
released
imagine?
that cable before three came because
One,
yeah.
two, then he's
Yeah,
so
the look
that's
on his
actual
face is
terror.
completely believable. Like, it's like just
Right.
that instant, even though it's only like a couple feet drop and you're going onto like a pad,
Right. But you know
being in
what?
slow mo, it just helped. And yeah, it looked
Right.
great.
And
You
then
don't
the
even get that
line,
nowadays that look that good.
right. The line from the police chief, he goes, God, I hope that's not a terror. I mean, a hostage. It's like he just splats on the ground. Oh, one thing about let's just talk about casting in this movie for a minute. The the news reporter and the guy, the police deputy in charge.
Yeah.
Why do they always cast people that are so similar looking? Because when I
Well, one's a
this
redhead and one's not.
well,
But yeah, I get your,
but the same color
they got
suit
that
and
classical kind of bone structure,
yeah, it just irritates me. I'm thinking,
from
who is
like the
this guy?
70s and 60s. Yeah.
Right, right. And they do it with women too. I mean, sometimes I'm watching a TV show, I'm thinking, wait a minute, is that the same woman? But it's a completely different character. Sometimes I wonder. I mean, it is a business and there's fallibilities, but the director should say, hey, that guy looks too much like that guy.
In
I don't
the
know, was it
80s,
done
there
a
was, I mean, in the 80s and late, early 90s, there was, that Paul Mitchell book where everyone kind of
right,
had like, five different haircuts.
right,
There wasn't really distinction between, hairstyles. So it's
right,
like everyone kind of had kind of a similar head structure and stuff
right.
because of their hair and the way they were combing it. The
Yeah,
clothing was less, diverse, 90s, early aughts, fashion and clothing, a lot of separate kind of, businesses and stuff were putting out their own, designer clothes. So it
right,
wasn't just, Ralph Lauren or, you either have a suit or you have this particular brand, Ralph Lauren
right,
shirt or a polo shirt. Now you got Tommy Hilfiger, you got Echo, you got, blah, blah, but you got so many different other kind of fashion that got put into, our society. So I think
right.
that kind of helps with differentiating characters
Right, right,
nowadays.
right, right. And what about the two the two FBI agents, Johnson? No, the other
Johnson
that
Johnson,
was
no relation, right?
no relation. One's an old guy, one's a black guy, and
that,
that
that
just
that has to be some kind of
it's got to be something on
joke
that.
about the
Yeah,
stereotype because I think I remember back in the old day there was a lot of just coinage of an FBI agent's named Johnson. If you didn't know what his
right,
name was, you just guessed it was Johnson.
right. And if they're all special agents, who's the special one? they're all they're all special. Like, okay, what's going on? But that was just they were in the helicopter. It was that was it's like this is not. I mean, the suspension of disbelief was gone with those two knuckleheads. It's like, and there's no FBI jackets. Things we as filmmakers notice. There's no FBI jackets, and how many they can't open a door. They have an acetylene torch. They can't open. Like what the hell?
Well,
It
I
just
saw that there was a chain on the door.
oh there was okay
Yeah, I saw. That's what I had to look at too. Is like, man, why is he cutting it? Just
yeah
start breaking the glass. You got high powered rifles. Shoot the
yeah
glass
just
and
get the
just
butt of the weapon boom and
because
it
the bad guys shot through the glass and shot them. So it's like,
right
man, they could have or put a C4. They do that. It's like put a little small charge on the door and blow it.
right. And is it just me, or does the guy that portrayed the security guard look like Huey Lewis?
Yeah.
Just like, is
I,
that Huey Lewis? I said,
well,
no, his
he
neck
had
was.
that southern accent too. I think he might have been a singer, but I don't
Well,
think it was Huey
I
Lewis.
looked at his neck though. He had a neck of a an athlete because I I've seen Huey Lewis, but he sure did look like Huey Lewis.
Yeah, I
It's a
mean,
great. I
everyone's
mean,
got those kind of looks, like the security guard that was actually working at the building. It's like every time I see him, it's like, is that John Larroquette?
oh,
And it's like it kind of sounds like him, but he's like, man, John Larroquette was on night court and he was looking older than
right. Well, they had
he
these
was
faces
then.
that
So it's
makes
like,
them
yeah, it can't
attractive
be
to.
him.
They have these faces to make them attractive to casting agents. I go for the the complete opposite. I want somebody unique looking, when we're casting stuff. But it was a fun movie to rewatch, and I can't think out, what a good decision it was to bring in Bruce Willis.
Yeah,
The
he was
the
worth every
non,
penny.
yeah, worth every penny. But it
Yeah,
didn't
I
make
mean,
that much
5 million.
money.
He made 5 million, and the movie only was made for 28. So the
Yeah, but it
movie was
didn't make that
technically
much
made for
money,
23.
140 something. I
I
thought it
think it
would
was
make
like
more.
close to 150, 148
Yeah,
million.
it's still a lot of money, but I thought it would have made. I think it did better overseas. I was looking at the number. I think it did better overseas.
Yeah, but
Uh,
that was, of course, that, the 143, that's, global, box office.
was
Of
it? I
course, it
revisit those
became
numbers.
popular on VHS and
Right.
then DVD. It was in syndication everywhere.
Then all the sequels they boost up the original. I bet. Yeah.
Yeah, but
I think I
it
have the
it
original on
didn't make
DVD.
as much money in profit wise based on, other movies that we talked about. Even the Turtle movie, it made way more money than this
Right.
movie. But, they felt confident enough to actually, like I said, continue to make more movies.
Right.
Even though even those movies didn't make, a huge profit,
Right.
but they made enough money to drive people to their product. Back
Right.
then, 28 million, that's nothing nowadays. You can't,
Oh no.
it's almost like you can't make a studio film for that nowadays
No.
because you have to pay writers so much. You have to have so many writers. You have to have so many, union reps. You have to have, you know, intimacy coordinators. We got all these
COVID coordinator, all
float,
these things.
and
Everyone's got their hand out.
yeah, yeah. I mean, then you got CG, and then you got like the animators, but then you got the middleman, the project managers,
Right.
and that was one thing that the people on Godzilla minus one were saying. It's like, how did you get this to look so good for the money that you did? And he showed a diagram of how they do it in LA. It's like, here's the animators who drew stick figures. Here's middle management, draws three stick figures in the middle, and then here's the director, one stick figure at the end. He folds that paper out, cuts out those middlemen. It's like, this is how you do it.
Right.
Because those
Interesting.
middlemen are going to make way more money than the animators. And all they're doing is babysitting those animators and
Hmm.
delivering what the director says to
He
the
was. Yeah.
animators.
Yeah.
And that's just inefficient. That's just bloat, and that's why,
Right.
products nowadays are costing $300 million to produce, and it's like that is not sustainable. We have to get back to the days where, do things practically, do things on a budget.
Right.
You're only given this amount of money, and if you go over, that is tough cookie. You got to figure
Right.
a way to do it for this.
And mortgage your house like the two in that. What movie was that?
That was in Rocky, I believe, right?
Rocky. Yeah. You better mortgage your house. Go get a
I mean,
home
but
equity loan.
look what they accomplished. I mean, the Fox even like charged them rent to shoot in their own building.
Right. Right. Right.
Right.
For
So they paid for locations. It probably wasn't as
Nakatomi
much
Plaza.
as it would have been,
Right.
but the helicopters, the
Right.
helicopters were real. They were flying around, they didn't tell them that they were going to be as low as they got. They said
Right.
that
Right.
no
Right.
helicopter was going to flow below 4 or 5 stories low, but
Right.
they were like
They come blasting through
30
that area.
feet above the
Right.
ground at some point,
Right.
and then
Yeah.
you got to do that, do something, ask for forgiveness later, right?
Right. 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 Right.
And that's the
I do that
independent
all the time.
filmmaking, that's the guerrilla filmmaking. Let's get out there and let's do
Right.
it because we don't have the budget to do it right.
Do we have permission to shoot here? Yeah, Larry. Yeah,
Yeah,
let's get
yeah,
this
yeah,
shot.
yeah, 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 yeah. All
One
right,
thing I thought was,
let's take a short
oh, we
little
take a
break and
break.
then we'll be
All right.
back right afterwards.
All right. Take a break.
All right, we are back and we're talking about the greatest Christmas movie of all time, Die Hard.
Die Hard. Bruce Willis.
Yeah.
1988,
Yes,
89,
1988. And what a
1988.
different story it would have been um if it was more like the book.
Yeah,
The book
I never even
had
read the book.
they were actual. I didn't read it either, but I did a little reading of the synopsis and what
Right.
differences there were. His daughter had worked for the company.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. And
Daughter
she
was
was
actually, behind the corruption, that
right,
they
right.
had.
She was a bad kid. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean they were dealing with like a oil in foreign countries and stuff like that. So when you saw like
Right.
the uh all the models of like the oil rigs and the oil fields,
Yeah, yeah. I
so
was wondering what the hell
it's
they
like
have a
that's
bridge
kind
for?
of like hinting back towards like the original source material.
The original, yeah, because they have the semi-submersible drilling rig and the yeah,
Yeah.
that's true. Then the refiner, I saw that.
Yeah, the terrorists were actually terrorists,
Right,
so I mean they weren't, I mean they're terrorist freedom fighters, so I mean they're quasi doing something for their own,
right for their
nation.
own cause. Right,
So
not
it's
just
like they had some kind of like scruples where it's like, okay, they're doing something for
right for the
a
common good.
good
Right,
purpose, and the
right.
corporation was evil.
Evil, yeah. Just
And then a
like in
lot of people died at the end of the book, and then you kind of had that kind of layer cake ending where it's like McLean was like shot by the guy, who at the end came out instead of getting shot by the cop, he actually shot down a whole bunch of people, and McLean was like, who wasn't McLean in the book, but John Leland or whatever is in the books. Like he's there, shot. You don't know if he makes it or not. So it's like, oh, what a completely different tone it would have been, and it wouldn't. I think if it had that tone, it wouldn't have been a Christmas movie.
no,
To be a Christmas movie, it's like you got to have a happy ending.
right,
That's just how it is. And that's
right.
what we got at the end, where it's like, you know, kind of, recoups with his wife,
Hmm.
even though, in the next movie, it's almost kind of like they went with like the TV sitcom where it's like you got to reset him. Where it's like, okay, he's having problems with his wife again.
Right, right. Well, I like
They're
what
kind of
about
very
the
strange again, and they're gonna meet up and see. It's like, okay, are they gonna get back together or not? And then the third one is the same thing. It's like, well, he's estranged from his wife again. You got to make that one call saying, if I don't see you again, it's like, I'm sorry. you know,
what about the limo driver Argyle?
Argyle. Yeah, I mean, I
He was
think
just
that
oblivious to everything
the
going on.
characters, Argyle was probably not in the original script, was only there probably at the very beginning,
Right.
but because of, there was some shooting with moonlighting still going on,
Hmm.
during some times, they had to actually beef up, the B characters,
Right.
Argyle, you know, Al, the cop,
Hmm.
his boss, Ellis's character,
Right.
they all had to give a little extra scenes because there was, exhaustion from some of the moonlight shooting and shooting with Die Hard for Bruce Willis. It's like he couldn't just keep up with it all. So it's like they
Yeah,
decided
yeah,
to
I
keep
read
up
that.
these
Yeah.
little B characters. And what they did with
Right.
Argyle, I thought was great.
Oh yeah. So like yeah, he was just oblivious to everything. It's like explosions going on, but then he kind of saved the day. Just running in that the mousy computer guy that he
Yeah, he takes out the
just
computer guy. That's like
yeah.
the only one he probably would have been able to get.
Right. That was so funny. He just rams it and you hear the guy that this is that's so funny. But yeah,
Yeah,
that
I mean,
was
like I said, the practical effects in this movie, I'm all about practical effects.
mhm,
CGI is so weird out. It's like you see an explosion. Most of the explosions that happen on the exterior of that building and the interior of those buildings were absolutely real. And
right,
if you
right.
look
In
close,
the
when they're doing a wide shot and you see the explosions when they blow the roof, it's like you can
right.
actually see flame pipes, where they
Hmm.
control the blast and where they come up. It's like you can see it. It's like, okay, yeah, a little bit of it is, digital, but most of it,
Yes,
it's all
true. Yeah,
practical.
yeah. It's really. I mean, they lucked out that they owned the building and they could,
Yeah,
it provided a great set for with the sheetrock and stuff. Like, all right, you guys just need to okay, you can go home early today. We need this for a scene.
yeah,
And it was good.
yeah. I mean, the building was still being constructed. There was
Right.
only several floors that were actually being rented out. And they were on the bottom, and that's why you had to shoot most of it at night.
Hmm.
Because, well, one, you got all these windows.
Right.
You better hope you're shooting at night. But there's other parts where it's like you don't see windows. You could. shoot during the day, but you can't shoot and have gunfire going off in the day, and they were distracting the people that rented the
Right.
building space down there. There were
And they
so many gunshots being fired, and the cleanup couldn't get them all. When Ronald Reagan,
right, right. The Secret
hired like
Service found some
he rented the top floor of the building after he, was done being president, and Secret Service was doing around. They were finding bullet casings
bullet
in the
casings, right.
buildings. Like they were kind of worried, but then they looked up.
Oh,
It's like, oh, they were just left over from
right. And they
shooting
said
Die
that
Hard.
the tenants of the tenants of the building, they were frustrated, so they leave the lights on at night when they needed to be, dark. And I guess they were annoyed with all the, hey, look, we're paying rent. What the hell's all this noise? So it was. I like Wikipedia. I mean, it gives you again an insight that normally you wouldn't know. But
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of information there. Wikipedia is kind of like, a societal kind of construct where it's like if someone has the knowledge, they can put it up there and it gets
right,
verified and stuff like
right,
that.
right.
Such a great,
Yeah,
great resource,
it's a good
especially
tool.
if you
Yeah.
don't have access to, behind the scenes and a lot of these
Hmm.
things. This is, how far are we away? We're, like I said, 40 something years,
Yeah, it's like holy smoke. Yeah,
a lot of this information, some of these people aren't around to actually, give the information anymore. And
to talk about
then
it.
you
Yeah.
got the time has passed so far where it's like, well, their recollection is their memory of what has happened,
Hmm.
and that has changed. Every
Yeah.
time someone tells a story, something gets changed
Right.
microscopically, and then as many
Right.
times people change, tell the story, a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more gets changed, right?
Yeah. The game telephone, right? Tell a story, go around a circle. That's not what I said.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, beautifully shot movie. The director, he wanted to use anamorphic lenses on the
Right.
Predator film, but they were
Hmm.
so expensive, the studio didn't want it. He was able to do it in this movie, and that's why you get a lot of shots that are, soft focus, very
Hmm.
shallow depth of field because they wanted
Right.
to get those lights from the city through the windows
Hmm.
exposed properly. So they had to
Right.
use like a 50 millimeter 1.1 aperture, and when you're
Hmm.
down that low at 1.1, you have so little, so little depth of field that usually it's just one character that's in focus.
Right.
Everything else is going to be out of focus.
Right.
And even some of the shots of exterior when I was watching, it's like, man, yeah, just everything was soft focus because the van is moving towards you, and there's no way you're gonna rack focus and keep that van in focus, So
Right.
everything is just kind of soft and blurry, but like he
But
said, he did it because it makes it look more expensive, and it's right. When
right.
you
Right.
have
Right.
anamorphic lenses, you have such a wider frame, you get to see more of the environment around these characters. So it just builds up those shots and gives it more interesting, more effect. Act like you've actually, put more effort in there. The lights look
And you.
great.
Mhm. Well, one thing I was reading about the Rickman shot when he fall, they didn't have something fast enough. I don't remember, but they had to make something. I don't remember, but it was for the rack focus. They couldn't do it fast enough. I don't remember what it was. I need to go back and look at it.
Yeah,
Maybe
I
since we
mean,
talked
I'd like to say that there might have been even a camera moving down with them, to
with
try to
them,
keep up with them.
right?
But yeah, I
There's
mean, like I said, that was a great shot. They might not even used I don't think they used an anamorphic lens shooting him because he's clearly separated from
oh yeah,
the
yeah,
background,
yeah,
because of
definitely the
that
separation. Yeah,
plate. That plate was definitely anamorphic because
right,
behind him was so bokeh'd, so out of focus. And
right,
like you said, his whole body seemed like it was in focus. So
right,
he stood out so much from that. That
right.
tells me that it's like they probably used a different lens to shoot him falling, and the
Yeah,
plate was actually shot with anamorphic.
anamorphic. Yeah, get that look. Yeah, it's really good. I like the movie, and like I said, I think it is a Christmas movie. You know, but it's a small percentage of people say that it is. There's more that say that it's not, but I beg to differ.
That's
I
because,
like
like you
Bruce
said,
Willis.
most people think Christmas movies are, the Christmas Carol,
Right.
uh,
I had
Man,
all those
I
things.
just, I just said it. Now I forgot the name of the other movie, but
Oh, Wonderful Life.
yeah,
A
Wonderful
Wonderful Life.
Life, or, The Holiday, movies are like particularly made for Christmas.
Right.
But I think
Elf.
not making something particular for, yeah, Elf, or, what's the last one that came out with The Rock, Chris Evans, Red One.
Oh,
I
I
think
haven't seen
that's
that
on
one.
Amazon right now. It's an
Oh,
okay film, but that's all it
mhm.
is. It's an
Right.
okay film because they
Right.
particularly made a Christmas movie.
Right.
If they would have made a movie that's just around Christmas, it's going to be better, you know? And, like I said, I just loved it. Alan Rickman was such a great villain. He was very, sophisticated, because this was his first actual movie role.
What would you know? And think back to how we found for Manny, how we found Kevin. He was a theater actor, and we saw him in his one man show, and we knew that. Well, everybody we have for Manny is involved. Dan, Raphael, Kevin, theater actors just be able. I think they're able to bring something that others can't.
Yeah.
Because they just do. They just have that sense of them.
Yeah, see, that's what bled into like the sophisticated villain to me, when Alan
Hmm.
Rickman, because he had that stage presence. He had that kind of theatrical, Shakespearean kind of attitude,
Right,
the way he
and not to
moved.
sound, I mean to sound negative, but they're kind of pompous. They're kind of full of themselves, which is good because you need to have that look at me, but in a nice sort of way, it's like because they know they are on stage and they need to man all eyes on me. So they're kind of that they have that attitude that really works. That's what I think it is. In a subtle way though.
Yeah, I mean,
Not
he didn't want his first movie to actually be a
no,
villain
no, he didn't no, he
action
didn't want to be
film,
no, he didn't want to be
but
portrayed as typecast. He didn't want to get typecast.
yeah, I mean, but
Yeah.
it wasn't the typical, action film. He wasn't playing a
It was
just
a Christmas movie.
he was he was playing someone who's acting like a terrorist, but he
Right.
was at the end of the day
A
just a
thief.
thief, like
Just a
sexual
thief.
thief. He had a great idea, he had a complicated plan,
Right.
but he was able to have that. It's like he needed to be a smart person because
Right.
it all came down to what? The FBI cutting the power. If that didn't
Mhm.
happen, if the FBI didn't come in and do things
Okay.
by their handbook,
Right.
then
They wouldn't have
it
got.
just wouldn't happen.
Yeah. And that's we need to talk. We need to interview a safecracker because that seemed kind of. Say, wouldn't they have some redundancies in that? But
I
again,
mean,
that's just
there
my
was some redundancies. Like he got past the first lock, like he put the code in, but even though
right.
he put the code in, he still had to start the drill.
Right. No, but I
So
mean,
it's
when they
like
shut the
even though you
power,
had the electronic code and the password to get past that first lock, you still had to like to drill something in there.
right.
And
I like.
most safes nowadays, unless they're super electronic, in the 80s and stuff like that, even though it is electronic, some of that technology was sci-fi.
Oh yeah.
But most safes, where you should have been able to be
Right.
taken out by a diamond tip drill. You
Right.
get it in the right spot, you're taking out those bars and the door's
Right.
just going to open, unless they have
Yeah.
some kind of safety measure where it's like it starts a fire if that door opens,
Right.
unless you put in, the proper code or something like that. If that code or something like that doesn't happen,
Like self
boom,
destruct.
just
Yeah.
incinerates everything inside.
Another good safe movie is what's Ocean 11. We'll talk about that later. Another good safe cracking movie. George
Or
Clooney.
I always liked what Sneakers.
Oh, I love Sneak. Oh, that's a great movie. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so, yeah, I
That's
like
one
the
of my
more
favorites.
classicer ones. That was what Robert Redford, River Phoenix,
River
Sidney
Phoenix,
Poitier
Dan
was in there,
Aykroyd.
right?
Uh,
Yeah, Dan
my
Aykroyd was in there.
what's his name? The guy that plays the blind guy, David something. I love that. He's a
Oh yeah,
great actor.
David Strahan, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah,
man, he's such a good
yeah,
actor.
he was young in that movie.
And Ben Kingsley.
Yeah, Ben Kingsley was in there too. Yeah, so
Yeah,
many actors.
information is power. That's
Well,
a man. That's
we'll have to talk about that one when
and
we.
nobody knows about that movie. It's like the Shawshank Redemption. No one knew about it till it got popular. But Sneakers is a great movie. Sidney
Yeah.
Poitier and because you want to all the things you want to ask somebody. You want to date me, right? Oh, yeah. We need to talk about that. That's a great movie.
Yeah,
I
we'll have to
talked to
talk about
people.
that one time.
Yeah, yeah. Hmm.
Yeah,
But
so
yeah,
great movie. You know, like you said, so many little details they put in there. You know, the
right.
filmmakers really, put their heart and souls in this movie. You know, and the actors
They
did
did.
great. The stunt doubles, put it on the line. They're,
Hmm.
when you're doing everything practical and you're doing things dangerous. The
Right.
one of the craziest stunts I saw was during that glass scene, before they shoot the glass and he runs off, he's like, one guy's like charging him and he shoots him. Look, he gets him in the legs and he takes a head dive straight
Oh
into
yeah,
the glass.
yeah.
I'm like,
When
man,
that knee
that was
shot,
a
my knees hurt.
beautiful shot.
Right, right,
It's like there is no faking that. It's like even if that sugar glass, he's taking a header into that
right
glass,
into
and
that
it's like
glass.
that
Yeah,
looked so great. That
right,
stunt double earned every bit of that pay that he got.
right. Yeah, the knee when he blew his knee, like holy smoke, that was a in your face kind of shot.
Yeah.
Yeah, a
Yeah,
good
the
movie. Yeah,
cinematography
good
was
choice.
great. They had a lot of that European style where they move on like emotion rather than straight action.
Right.
You
Well, yeah,
know,
they said a lot of handheld too. A lot of handheld.
you almost had to back then.
Yeah.
They had to use certain rigs, and if you're using like a Panasonic camera, on the film cameras back then, it's like you had to use a particular steady cam that was made for
Right.
that camera because it was so
Right.
large, and
Right.
it was just so much money. Not everyone knew how to use it properly. So
Hmm.
you had to pay a person who knew it, who was certified. And that just makes the budget go up and up and up. So great movie. If you've never seen it, you got to see it, especially if you're a fan of Alan Rickman, Bruce Willis.
Right.
It's only going to get more popular. I mean, Bruce Willis, he's not making any more films. He can't.
Oh no, he's super.
And
He's
Rickman died several years ago. And it's like
right.
these are movies that are in the historical records now
Well,
because
yeah, Congress
of their
put it in
performances.
national historical. Yeah, it was enshrined, and I think the Smithsonian has his T-shirt, the wife
Yeah.
beater.
Yeah, he had
Yeah,
17 different shirts,
yeah, 17 different T-shirts.
17
Yeah,
different tank tops and various forms of degradation.
right.
you know,
Yeah,
and and how lucky was it, and budget wise, where it's like all it was a shirt that you can go to Walmart and
right,
pick up a
right,
couple of
right,
packs and then just have the special effects or the visual effects people, dab it
right.
up. The wardrobe
Tag,
people, like,
yeah,
let's
yeah.
make
Tag
a
this and
rip,
bag
let's
it. Right,
spire some blood here, let's take a
right.
picture, let's try to replicate a couple. So yeah, we'll have to take a little, we'll have to end it right here. Such a great movie. Definitely see it. Right now, I believe you can watch it on like Tubi, Roku, some various others. Um, I'm sure it's going to be on, for New Year's Eve as well. It's such a great movie. But we'll end it here because we look like David is frozen a little bit and we lost him. So we'll have to catch you next week. Make sure you subscribe and like. You can find us on
Are you there?
iHeartRadio, Spotify. Oh, there you go, David. We can hear you. There you are. Oh, well, lost audio again. Well, everyone, let's make sure you check us out and we'll catch you next week.